while he hung up there with arms stretched out wide, enduring the anguish, he was still busy offering prayers for them all, for his accusers, for the unjust judges, his taunters, his executioners, for us all. Even when they gave him vinegar for water, he implored his Father to not hold the guilt of their actions against them, for they acted only out of ignorance. In spite of his grief, he even gifted a ticket to paradise to the repentant thief. As the drama of salvation wraps up, this last act with its features parallels the first at the beginning in Genesis. Two gardens, Eden and Golgotha. The first where we erred and were estranged. The second where we are redeemed and reconciled. Two trees, the tree of the seed of knowledge and death, and the tree of the seed of grace and life. Two women, Eve and Mary. The first, the mother of all who live but were condemned, while the second, the mother of all who believe and are saved. Two men, Adam and Jesus. One's action in disobedience and selfishness brought doom upon humanity. The other's action in obedience and selflessness redeemed humanity. Usually, at this point, during the prayerful walk of the cross, Catholics would kneel briefly in solemn silence, remorseful silence. On Good Friday, from 3 p.m., our churches and religious premises will be drowned in a holy quietness to honor the most sacred moment in history, the moment God died in his Son. The world goes quiet because the giver of the breath of life breathed his last. Indeed, it is consummated. It is accomplished. The sacrifice is done. The struggle is over. The accuser of the brethren is defeated. However, it is important to understand the ramifications of this sacrifice. The night before, at table with his friends, he offered this same sacrifice, giving up his body and enacting a new and eternal covenant in his blood for the forgiveness of sins of all men, a permanent replacement of the old Passover meal. Though at table on Thursday, the sacrifice was offered bloodless, that is, without immolation, but here on the altar of the cross, on Friday, the same sacrifice of his body and blood, soul and divinity is offered in immolation, that is, in a bloody manner. Furthermore, in compliance with his solemn command, this same sacrifice, equal in power and grace, is to be offered continuously as immolated, but under the physical appearances of bread and wine, by his priests on our Catholic altars, as often as in memorial of this salvific sacrifice. This comprehensive understanding gives complete meaning to the puzzling statements he made as to the facts and reality of his body and blood in John chapter 6. As the sacrificial death on the altar of the cross is the ultimate and defining moment in human salvation history, so is the Eucharist the summit and definitive reality of the Christian life and experience. As Christ gives up his body on Calvary's tree for the redemption of all mankind, so also he gives it up on the altar at Mass as food for the life of the world. Thus, he unequivocally stated that unless we eat his flesh and drink his blood, we have no life in us. This is the sacrifice that secures man's freedom from his slavery to sin, Satan, and death. It is the sacrifice that brings us life and sets our feet on the path to glory. The price is paid by which the error of our first parents is undone. Man is reconciled to his Maker, and the gates of paradise are flung open again. Truly, this is no fiction. Christ did die. His death is not only a fact of faith, but equally a fact of history. He died only so that we may live. Truly, his death is the death of death. For in 3 days he will have the last and best laugh. So while we grieve the sad death of our Lord, we await in hopeful anticipation for his resurrection, the perfect fulfillment of his mission.